Hi everyone, this is Jigyasa, a host for today, along with my colleagues. Welcome you to the webinar series of Configure.IT. In this webinar series, we are going to cover some of the use cases that you can apply on your application. The concept that we are going to cover today are registration form with which user can register into their application. For this, we need to create an API with which your data will be stored in your database table. The second concept for today is a login form with which user will log in into the application with the same registered detail. So let's go on by creating one project over here. Let's name the project webinar. Here you'll get a dashboard where you can choose your platform. You can choose your platform as iOS or Android. You can choose the device over here, mobile or a tablet. Similarly, you can choose the orientation for your application, portrait or landscape. From the drop-down here, you can choose the database which you want. We have a number of templates over here. You can start creating your application by using this template. But for now, we'll start by creating a blank project. This might take some time as this is allocating a huge space for your project. Now, your webinar project will be created. Right now, we are starting with a blank project so that you get the idea about the application creation over here. See, your webinar is created successfully. From here, you can directly go to your app console where you can start designing your screen. Configure.IT, you can download this application from here where you'll test the application built by you on CIT. Here, you can start configuring from database, API, or a data panel. In the left, you'll find a number of links over here with which you'll get a reference to design your application. We are going to start today with the registration form. So I decided to take a wizard or a template, we can say, so that we can save our time. When we take a template, we need our API ready to map with the template. So we'll go directly to the database configuration. Click on this to redirect to the backend. This is the database configuration area. Here you can find a number of tables readily available with all the validations required. So among them, here we have a mode_customer table with adjacent fields which is required for a registration. You can see over here the fields first name, last name, email, username that we usually require for a registration. So why not make the use of this database table? Now when we have our database table ready, let's go to the API creation, a business logic for your application. This is the API configuration area where you'll see the number of API already ready. But right now, we are going to see by creating a new API. You can start by giving the name over here for your API, that is registration API that we are creating. Main operation is a selection right now. API category, you can select from the drop-down, user. We select this category to categorize or bifurcate your API. This is mainly useful when you download your API code. Below, you can see the area for input parameters. The parameters that you're giving from your registration form, you have to give input over here. So the different fields we're going to type here, that is first name. Let's make the field as required. Add another parameters like last name. You can leave the field as not required. according to your requirement. Second, here you can add email. This is a required field for registration. Similarly, password. Make it required. Now click on Next to move on to the API creation, where we will implement our main logic for registration form. This is the API configuration area. Here we have provided you with the flowchart structure to create your API. You can use these blocks over here, query, condition, to create your API. Make sure the flowchart is valid. Right now, the flowchart structure is invalid. Now, before creating a registration form API, I'd like to discuss with you the logic involved in it. Remember, the registration that you do when you use the app for the first time. When you register into any application, first of all, it will check that your details are already existing or not. If it is not existing, thereafter, it will register you into the system. The first is a checking thing that is doing, and the second is the insertion process, right? So these two things we are going to implement on our API. Let's see how easily and simply way I would implement this logic on our API. Let's take a query block here to implement our first logic that I said. Check for uniqueness. Let's give the name as this so that you can relate it to the logic. The main operation here will be a select and choose a table that we just selected from our database table, that is mode_customer. Next, when you selected a table, all the fields in the table will be available here on the left side, right? Whatever the fields required, you can click on it so that it will give you as an output. After selecting the inputs, save and next, where you can give the logic, like if the email in the database is equal to the email that you are entering right now from the form is equal. Now we'll provide the condition for this. If this logic is true, here the flow is checked for uniqueness. Now we'll give the operator here as doesn't equal to. Let's check this condition. When your email doesn't match with the email on a database table, then you'll insert another query block. That is, now you'll register your detail. Let's give it a name, register into table. Now the operation will be an insertion. Take the same table for recording your data. Next. Select the fields that you're going to insert from your registration form. Right now, you're going to insert a first name, last name, email, and a password, right? Map with the input parameters that you are giving in an API. First name with the first name, last name with the last name, email with the email, and password with the password. Save it. Remember, I said you that the flow should be complete. So on the left, we're going to add a finish block if the condition failed. Give the success parameter as 2 and give the message as user already registered. Save it. Now, what if the registration is successful or the registration is failure? To check that, give another condition block here. Now, we'll check the flow here that we gave register into table equals, operator will be equals to success. Save this condition. Now, we'll give here if the condition is successful on the right, we're going to give a finish block which states that your registration is successful, and the success parameter here will be 1. Message, registration successful. Successful. Save it. To make our flow complete, on the left side, we'll add another finish block, which indicates that the insertion or a registration is failed. Uncheck this. Give the success parameter as 0 and message as registration failure. Save it. The logic or implementation for your API is completed. You can check either your registration API is working successfully or not by giving here the values. You can check it. You can give any dummy values. Password as ABC. Save the settings and execute your API. You can check over here the success parameter we got as a response is 1 and your registration is successful. Right now. Now we are ready with our registration API. When we are ready with this, let's go on to creation or design of your screen. We can go back and click on Start to Configuration your app console to start designing your screen. This will redirect us to the app console. We'll create our screen. Delete this. Okay. Now we are going to take a template to design your screen. You can see over here, you can create your screen either by clicking a blank screen, a template, or upload PSD. Remember, we have two components on any screen, that is design and a business logic. So when you take a template, the design is already over. Give a name for your screen as sign up. Select a template. You have been provided with number of templates here which you can use for listing, detail, screen, and form. Right now, we're choosing a form for registration. So you can choose from this. Let me take this. Next. As I said to you before, whenever you choose a template, you have to map with the API. So you can see the registration API is the API that we just created. So map with this API. These are the input and output parameters that is reflecting when I selected the API. Next. Map the input with the input from the screen. First name with the first name from your registration form, last name with the last name, email with the email, and password with the password. Click Next to proceed. Now, you're getting a responses from an application. So how you're going to handle the responses, this is the area where you define your action. So on success, right now we are going to just show the message alert. The registration successful. Similarly, on failure, we are going to show registration failure message on the screen. Finish. With this, our configuration for sign up screen is completed, and now we can see the result. Let's wait till it saves the screen. You can see over here your screen that we just took from a template. By default, we'll get a home screen as our default screen. So let's change our default screen to the sign up screen. Save it. Let's see in the Preview.IT how does it work, our screen which we just configured. On the top, you can see the webinar project which we just created. Let's download this app in a Preview.IT application. Here I did the simple configuration to show the alert for the responses. You can do many actions over here. It might take some time for downloading your application for the first time. After it gets downloaded, you can refresh it to see the changes that you make on the platform. Right now, you can see your screen that we just configured. Let's log in into the application. I would register with my name right now. Configure.IT. Password will be ABC. ABC. We can see the changes over here now. Okay. Our registration screen is successfully created and we successfully registered into our application. With this, the sign up registration is completed. We can check that the details are inserted into our table or not by going into our backend customer table, which we just took. Okay, I inserted my details and you can see over here the details on a database. Successfully got inserted into the database. With this, we completed the configuration of registration screen. Let's move to the creation of login form. That is our second concept for today. For login screen, I'm going to take a new screen and I'm going to select a blank screen for creating a login form. Let's name the screen and start with a blank screen. Here I chose to take a blank screen to show you how the controls can be used to design your screen. This is the blank screen that you're seeing right now. On the left, you have number of controls over here, which you can drag and drop into your screen to design your application. You can drag and drop this control on your screen to design your application. Here, you can see, before starting the design, I would like to give you the information about the modes available here. On the top panel, you can see different modes. These modes are used to accelerate, or more than that, I can say to simplify your configuration. Right now, it is into development mode. So all the elements in the properties table you'll see here, like design element, development elements, as well as the actions over here, right? So when you choose, let me show how it differs. When you choose design element, or design mode here, and choose a label, only the design properties or elements are shown here. So it helps you to focus on your design configuration, right? So right now I'm going into my design mode and start designing my labels. Let me set a height and a width for a label. Similarly, you can set the position. Don't forget to give the naming convention here so that you can identify your controls. Email. So usually on a login form, you use labels to show the static content on the screen, right? So right now I'm showing as an email. You can choose the color, any of the color from here. Okay. You can increase the font of your label. It's completed. Now you can clone this, which will save your time, for another label, that is password. Set the hidden position for it. Okay. Now change the text of your label as password. If you want to align these two controls, click on Command, right click, you'll find here the alignment properties, vertically aligned. Now, usually on a registration form, you will have a text field to input your credentials. So I'm going to drag and drop a text field. Set the width and height similar to the label. Rename your text field as email. Clone the text field to save your time here. Similarly, you can align this to text field, vertically aligned. Now this is your static design that you can see over here. Now let's add a button here which will complete your design for the login form. This is a simple design that I have done here. You can rename it in a similar way. Give a title for the button and set any color that you like. Login. Now with this, design for your login screen is completed. Now we will take a blank screen. Both the components are left. So let's go to the backend for creation of the business logic. That is the login API. As I said here before, some of the API are readily available over here. So we're going to make the use of one, that is customer login. You can see here API name is customer login and the input parameters for it is username and password. This username and password is now email password as we took in a login form. Move to the configuration to see the configuration of an API. You can see over here a flowchart structure for your login API. The logic involved in this is similar to the sign-up checking for the uniqueness. The main operation is select. The table is the same as more underscore customer. Select table fields that are required for your as your requirement, customer ID, first name, last name, and a where condition. Right now, instead here we have username. With respect to username gathering, we'll cancel this and we'll choose the email. We'll check with respect to the email, which is the username for us, right? And password is equal to password. Save it. If this logic here we have maintained as get underscore customer login details equals to success. If the query that we have done on a query block is true, then it gives us a success result, with all the required fields. So this success parameter is 1 because we are successfully logging into the system. Similarly, if the query block fails, login not found, we are giving the success parameter as 0. I'm focusing more on the success parameter because this response is very important for doing other actions. With this, our login API is ready. You can check whether it is the correct configuration or not. Let's execute it. It's failure. I have entered some wrong detail here. Okay. Let's try with abc@gmail.com with abc. Let's check our API is correct or not. ABC. Execute this, save the setting, and execute this API. It should give us a correct result now. A login into the application. Right now it is checking that your details are available on a database table or not. It's taking time to execute. Let me refresh the screen and execute it again. Username abc@gmail.com and password was abc. Save the settings and execute. Now you can see it returns a success value as we have that detail on our database table, customer information found. Now we are ready with our login API. You might have doubt like how would we connect our mobile with the backend or business logic. So here I'm going to tell you that on the right top you have a area known as data source. Data source acts as a bridge to connect our mobile end with the backend or business logic. So for this, you click on this, you'll get a drop down where you'll find number of API that you have created on your backend. Right now, if you remember, the API name that we created is customer login. When you select the API, you'll find number of input parameters that you gave on your API. So map this with the parent source. From object, the text field email. I told you before that naming convention is very important as you keep on adding new controls. It is very hard to identify the controls here. So save it. Similarly, for password, from object, text field 1. Let's make the validation for username as email 2. This is the area where you will give the validation. Save it. Now you have mapped the input parameters from your login form into the API. But the question is, when are you going to invoke this API? So let's move to the development mode again. You can find your controls from the object tree on the left side. On button click, usually we log in into any application, right? So let's put the action over here on login form, click action. Here we will define the action to invoke the API, that is trigger data source API. Let's give the API as customer login. Save it. And finally, you have invoked your API. Now, when you invoke your API, you'll get the responses. Responses either successful or unsuccessful. Now, what are you going to perform next on this responses? That you're going to handle from a data source event. Well, data source loaded event is here. This event is triggered whenever you get the responses from your API. So here you'll give the conditions. If the response is success equals to 0, that is unsuccessful, give an action for your form. Right now, I'm going to show an alert on login failure and give the message here titled registration failure. Similarly, clone this case and put the action if the responses is coming successful. Action so alert, registration is successful right now. Save it. Here, on a login form, I'm going to show you either the list login as true or false with the alert. We can check this on our Configure.IT. Before checking, let's give the default page as a login. Before I select it as a sign up, to get your login screen at the front on a Configure.IT, save this. Re-download your application on Configure.IT application to see the changes. Here I have applied a simple logic and designed in a simple manner. You can put your effort, you can do better design, you can make the uses of many other controls over here to design your screen. Let us check that our login form is working perfectly or not. It is almost completed. Okay, this is how our design is looking. To see that the business logic is working or not, let's give the email ID that we just entered during registration and give the password the same. Click on login to see the changes. Okay, I gave the message over here as registration successful, so it is showing that. Okay, you can give here as a login successful. Similarly, on case 1, make it as a login failure. Save it. Refresh the screen to see the changes that I made. ABC, login. It should show the expected changes. Save it. The actions are saved successfully. Now let's check on our login screen. Before checking, refresh your screen and check for the details. ABC. Login screen. login successful. With this, we completed our configuration for sign up and login form. Here I have used a simple design and basic logic for the registration form. You can do more with the properties involved here, available here. Right now I show the two alert on the login successful and failure. You can redirect to another screen, or you can save this IDs in the session and do more things than me, which I have done right now. With this, our webinar for today is completed. If you have any queries, you can raise here. Okay, we have got some question here for today's regarding our today's webinar. Let me ask Zigo to address them for us. Feel free to post them in the chat window as we answer them.
Thanks, Jessica. This is Jigar. Thanks everyone for being so patient, and we've got some questions lined up already. Okay, so first thing, of course, somebody asked whether we will have some kind of help document or recording of this webinar. Well, certainly yes. With this webinar, we're going to we have the recording enabled, as you might have noticed. It's going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and you'll shortly get a link for that. And as far as the documentation and everything is concerned, you can certainly go to www.configure.it/help, where you find plenty of stuff, including the getting started guide. And that's pretty much everything that you can get in terms of getting the tutorials, videos, and reference manuals. So that's for the help part. Okay, we have got the next question, which says, can we send notifications once the user is registered? Sure. So it actually is handled within the API that you created. So in this API configuration, where you have, let me jump back to the registration API. So whenever you have a registration flow being configured as a part of your business logic, upon the successful registration, just around this query block, you can send out certain notifications. Either you want to send a confirmation email, or you maybe want to send some other kind of emails, or maybe some SMS. You can pretty much configure that over here inside your flowchart. So yeah, that's completely possible. We just skipped it for the sake of simplicity to explain, but that is certainly possible. Okay, the next question is, where is the data stored when the user is registered? Okay, that's a very good question. So all that you saw while we were configuring the flow and testing the application through Preview.IT, you were seeing this data inside the MySQL database section, which is actually a part of your development environment. So in a nutshell, this entire setup that you see is for the development purpose only. But when you want to move to the production suite, or whenever you are ready to launch your application, you have two options, which I'm going to explain through the help of dashboard. So when you go inside your dashboard and look at the project listing, you have two options. Either you can host your backend with Configure.IT, which is included already in your free plan, or as in part of a professional publishing, so to say, you can host your entire backend externally on your own server. And that's possible by having the code download access for backend, which you can purchase at a small fee, where you can download the entire source code for the backend and then can deploy it on your own server. Okay, next one is very good as well. Can we use social login? For sure, you can use the services like Facebook, Twitter, or Google Plus. You can integrate those third-party services inside your mobile app. The next one is also important. What about the security of the passwords? I saw the password stored as a normal text in the database. So for sure, there are two options here. You can set the text box of the password field when you configure as a secure text entry option, so that in the user interface, whenever you are typing in the password, it is not as a plain text. So there's an option here when you select the configuration password box, just mark it as yes, and in the preview IT, it will appear as an password entry field, just like you would enter any other normal password in the login flow. As far as the database is concerned, okay, let me show you an example here. So I just refreshed the screen, and you can see now the password is as per the password field. As far as the database is concerned, you can configure the password with your own encryption function, or you maybe use inbuilt functions with MySQL, like MD5. So you have all the options based on what kind of encryption you want to keep for password. And I think similar case might apply for some credit card or payment information as well, depending on the use case you want to solve. Okay, here's some existing users as well who have been using the platform, and they have noticed something interesting. The question is, I see frequent updates for Preview.IT app. Why is that? Well, obviously because we have just revamped the application interface for Preview.IT, and it is completely powered by Swift code now. Earlier it was with Objective-C code, but the newer Preview.IT is based on completely Swift standards. And there are a lot of upgrades and refinements that we are constantly doing, and that's the reason why we are constantly updating the app on the App Store, which is good. Okay. The next one is interesting. Somebody noticed had a really good eye. So the question is, when we were in the process of creating a project, whenever Jigyasa was going through the creation of project, there was an option for PostgreSQL as a database. But you might not be seeing that. That's purely because of the package tier you are into. PostgreSQL and MS SQL as a database option are only available to the advanced packages. So you might want to upgrade to see how that works. Do we have any questions? Okay. This is from somebody who wants to have the clients in the picture as well. So the question is, will the client be able to identify if the app has been developed using Configure.IT or not? And how much of the rate that can be mainly for the code-specific client? So I think the question is about whether as a developer you are developing with Configure.IT, but might be you don't want to reveal that to your clients, or maybe you don't want to have your end users see that the app was developed with Configure.IT. Yeah, so you can obviously download the source code for the app once you are done with the development, and you can completely own that source code. That's your IP, and you can customize and remove the branding. Although there is no branding as such involved by the out-of-box delivery of the app. However, it is only applicable to the apps that are published under the starter package. So if you are under the starter plan and you want to publish the app, the only thing that will come up with Configure.IT is a splash screen indicating the Configure.IT logo. But apart from that, there's nothing that is contained as a Configure.IT. Even in the source code, you don't get any backlogs or any traces to the Configure.IT servers. It's all yours, and you can deal with however you want to deal with in your publishing. Okay, we've got a few minutes left only. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat window. Otherwise, we will wrap up. Okay, we have the last one coming in, I guess. Does it support iOS 10 and Android N? Well, practically, we're not 100% ready yet, but the good news is that we are already running iOS 10 beta under a few devices, and all the stuff that we have been working on is working absolutely great, except for a few things. But I think it will be better to wait till the final release of iOS 10, and that should be done pretty much smoothly because most of the things are already working. So when you pay for the source code download, is it possible to make continuous changes to the code? Or maybe the question, I think, let me reread the question because I think I misinterpreted that. So whenever we pay for the code download, how many times you can download the source code? So so the code download is only applied to your project. So as long as you keep your subscription active, you can download the source code as many times as you want. There is no limit to that. You can make changes and you can download the code as many times as you want. Till your subscription is active, of course. Any last minute questions? What's next? So yeah, we'll be having the next webinar same time around on next Tuesday, and hope to see you all there. I think we will definitely have a lot of interesting stuff coming our way, uh, and hope to see the same kind of enthusiasm. Thanks so much for attending this time, and hope to see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.